सीट को थोड़ा सा सामने ना कर देते। यहाँ से घुमा के लगाओ।
ठीक है ना? अब देखना मेरा ठीक है। कौन सी श्लोक है जी? नंबर
अध्याय नंबर 9 श्लोक नंबर 12।
श्लोक नंबर 12।
To start with Om Sai Namo।
टाइम हो गया।
यस स्वामी जी याद आई।
ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। So we were doing verse number 10. I have to see. Maya adhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam. Every individual is born of sacharacharam, means sacharam and acharam. Sacharam means that which can move. Acharam means the inert, the sentient and the insentient. Sacharacharam. Maya adhyakshana. By me, who is the Lord is considered to be adhyaksha. He is the presiding presence. He is only a presence. Maya adhyakshana prakritihi suyate. Prakriti creates. Prakriti is born. Prakriti is suyate sacharacharam. Meaning most of the jivas are born of prakriti. The bodies are born of bodies are prakriti. Hetunanena kaunteya. Because of this reason, jagat viparivartate. Jagat, the world changes because of the prakriti. If the prakriti were not there, if it is only, if it is understood that the prakriti also is born of the truth, then there is no problem. Then one is liberated. But then, as long as one doesn't think, one doesn't discern between the Atma and Anatma, then one thinks that everything is born of Prakriti. And when you think that everything is born of Prakriti, then the Prakriti changes. Prakriti is meant to change anyway. And therefore the world also changes. Therefore, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Maya Adhyakshena, by me the Adhyaksha. God is only a presiding presence. Presiding presence. He doesn't have the will, please. He is a presence. Presupposing his presence, he is the everything is born. Not he is the Abhinna Nimitta. He is conscious that he is a Nimitta Karana means he is conscious. And he is Upadana means he is the material. He is Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karana. But he is only a presence. He is a conscious presence. That he is a conscious being, he is explained through efficient cause. That he is efficient cause is established. It establishes that he is a conscious being. That he is the Upadana Karana establishes the fact that he consciousness is the material. Therefore, his consciousness is the presiding presence of everything. If the universe were not, if the Parameshwara were not there, there would not have any universe. The universe cannot, it is something, it is present, and it cannot come from nothing. Nothingness is not there. First of all, there is no such a thing called nothingness. How do you prove that nothingness is there? You have to know it. If you know it, your knowing is not nothingness. Your knowledge is not nothingness. Therefore, nothing, there is no such a thing called nothingness. शून्य में ऐसा कोई चीज नहीं है. And therefore, शून्य is not there. And therefore, Brahman is Brahman is the source of everything, not the Shunyam. And therefore, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate. Prakriti is Prakriti. It is itself, Prakriti itself means what is created from awareness. Prakrishtena Kritatvat Prakriti. Prakrishtena Prakrishtaya Kriyate. It is well done, it is well created. Prakriti is born of Purusha. And all the jivas are born of both Prakriti and Purusha, both. Purusha Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Hetu Danena Kaunteya. Because of this reason, Kaunteya, Jagat Varivartate. The Jagat change undergoes change because of the Prakriti, not Purusha. Purusha is changeless. Conscious being is changeless. Consciousness is changeless. It is the Prakriti that undergoes change. It is the matter that undergoes change. It's not the consciousness. Even though consciousness is there in all the jivas, but that is his swarupa. That he doesn't know that even though everybody says, I am there, but I am there, aham asmi is not recognized. Aham asti is recognized. Aham asti, deho aham asmi. Even though he says asmi iti, but then he only feels this body I am. This body I am. I am not felt as myself. I am felt only as the body. And therefore it is avajananti mam mudaha. Next verse is 11th verse. Avajananti. They put me to insult. Mam mudaha. Mudaha means the ignorant people put me, they talk to me, they convey to me the insults. Mam abhijananti mam mudaha, they insult me. Manushim tanimashritam. And if it is formless, then why has he entered the human body? In this manner, why has he taken the human body? Krishna himself has taken the human body. They insult him also, and they insult themselves also. I have taken the human body. I am a human being. In this manner, one thinks. You are a human being, but you are not a human being. You are solely a conscious being. To be a conscious being, body makes you human. Otherwise, consciousness does not make you anything. Consciousness is something that is absolute. I am solely a conscious being. Avajanantima mudaha manushim tanum ashritam. Manushim means the human, tanum means I have taken the human body. It is every human being is none other than Parameshwara as a human being. Every human being is Parameshwara as a human being. And therefore, Parameshwara, everybody thinks that Parameshwara has taken a human being. Therefore, they insult me. I am only a human being. I am only a human being. I have a size. In this manner, they insult themselves. Param bhavam ajanantaha. The timeless nature is not understood. Param bhavam, the timeless nature. Ajanantaha, ununderstood, not understanding the timeless nature, the unlimited nature, the size-free nature. Param bhavam ajanantaha. Mama bhuta maheshwaram. My timeless nature, mine. It is the consciousness timeless nature. Because one doesn't know the consciousness is something that transcends the form. Consciousness may transcend the form, but the form cannot transcend consciousness. The form is limited to consciousness. Like the wave is limited to water. The water is not limited to the wave. The water is free. It is not even aware of the wave. From its from the water point of view, there is no wave. That is a swarupam. From whose point of view, the water doesn't feel the wave. The water doesn't miss the wave. What you don't feel, what you don't miss, is not your nature. And therefore, here it is said, Avajananti mam mudaha manushim tanimashridam param bhavam ajanantaha mama bhuta maheshwaram. Mama, my timeless nature, they don't know, and therefore they think that they are only human beings. A human being himself thinks that I am only a human being. I have a human size. And also Krishna also they think if Krishna is avatar, then why should he take a human body? As I say, he takes a human body because he has to correct the adharma. and therefore he has to take avatara. And therefore it is the law that whenever the dharma grows and the dharma becomes eclipsed, then the very truth appears in some form, in some human form. If it is a human world, then it appears in the human form. If it is a God's form, if it is a heaven, then he appears in the God's form, and then rectifies the incorrection. They rectifies the imbalance. Parambhama. And but then Krishna, even though he is like that, but people think that Krishna is only a human being. How can he be a Bhagavan? They think like that. But Bhagavan is not another huge individual. Bhagavan is not an individual. Bhagavan is, when you go to Sushupti, you transcend the body. When you transcend the body, you transcend the size. And when you transcend the size, then you are timeless. You are indeed infinite. Because size freeness is called infinitude. It has no particular size. And therefore, size freeness is indeed infinitude. And that infinitude is what is to be understood. And therefore, everybody is indeed Parameshwara. Every individual is a Parameshwara, but he doesn't know. He thinks that I am only a human being. I am only a human body. I have a size. I am limited. I am struggling. In this manner, he thinks. And therefore, he insults himself, and he thinks of insulting Bhagavan Krishna also. But Bhagavan Krishna also says, Maya adhyakshena suyate sachracharam. Mama bhuta maheshwaram. Mama bhutam. Bhuta maheshwaram means it is, I'm not Mama bhuta maheshwaram. I'm not, my name, my timeless nature, they don't know. And my being the truth of all individuals is not known. My being the truth of all individuals is not known. Bhuta means anything that is born. Maheshwara means the Lord. I am the Lord of all the individuals. I am the Lord. I am the truth. The Lord means the truth. Like the water need not have the will, please. The truth need not have the will. Like the water doesn't have the will. Water is the truth of the waves. In the same manner, clay is the truth of the pots. In the same manner, the cotton is the truth of the cloth. In this manner, gold is the truth of the ornaments. But the truth need not have any will, please. This is what is to be understood. The truth need not have the will. And even if he doesn't have the will, we can say that he is the nimittam, and he is also abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. As a conscious being, he is nimitta karanam. As the material for everything, as the entire creation, that is why he says, Mama bhuta maheshwaram. I am the truth of all the individuals. All that is created has, for that, I am the truth. And therefore, there is no such a thing. Without me, without presupposing my presence, nothing can be born. And therefore, here it is said, Mama bhuta maheshwaram, param bhavam ajanantaha. And they don't understand the timeless nature, the size-free nature, because they never think about the deep sleep state. They never analyze the discern. They never discern between the self and the non-self, between Prakriti and Purusha. They never discern, and they just wake up from the deep sleep state, and then they go about their vyavahara. From where I came, whereunto I have to go. This they never think, because everybody thinks that I am going to be here in this world forever. Perception is only for some time. Non-perception comes into to existence. When you perceive, when before the birth, for how long you did not perceive this world, and for how long you are going to perceive the world, for how long you did not perceive the world, for eternity, please. Eternity is the nature of your Swarupa. And in that nature, there is no perception at all. This universe is perceived only for some time, and therefore, in the life also it is perceived for some time, but it's not perceived in its nature. There is no perception. Like in Sushupti, there is no perception. And before the birth also there was no perception, and after the death also there is no perception, and therefore there is more time without perception. There is a longer time, more perception, without perception. Whereas there is less time. There is time. In fact, freedom from perception is timeless, whereas perception is time bound. This is very important point, G. Perception is time bound, whereas non-perception is timeless. It is timelessness. It is freedom from time. Non-perception is timelessness. And therefore, Bhuta Maheshwaram, they don't understand me correctly. And therefore, they talk as though they insult me. They insult as though they insult me. In fact, in more than insulting Bhagavan Krishna, they insult themselves also. That I am only a human being. Even to think that I am a human being is insulting the truth only. Even to think that I am only a human being, that means he doesn't understand that I am solely a conscious being. You are not the body. You are solely a conscious being. And therefore, that solely a conscious being is not understood. Solely a conscious being is not understood, and therefore it is Parambhava Majananta Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram. And every individual is born of, every individual body, every individual mind is born of, ultimately is born of the truth only. It is made of the truth. Prakriti, as I told you, Prakriti also is made of Purusha. Even though the Prakriti is there in every individual, the body is Prakriti, the nature is Prakriti, but then the nature itself is not something unborn. The nature is also, it is born of Purusha. Purusha is the Vinnanamito Upadana Karanam. It is undivided. He is a conscious being and he is also material conscious. He is a material being. And therefore here Parambhav Avajananti Mam Mudaha. And such people are ignorant. And those who talk ill of Avatara, those who talk ill of, you don't have to argue. You can just be quiet. Let them collect sin. And if you even to look upon oneself is ignorance, please. Even to look upon oneself as the body, as a human being is ignorance only. And what can you do with ignorance? You can only bear with ignorance. If a person is ignorant, what can you do? And therefore he will always insult himself, he will always insult Krishna also, he will always insult Rama, he will always insult anybody. I say Krishna should be looked upon as a thinker. He is more, a right thought can take place only in the truth. A wrong thought can take place in the realm of ignorance. And therefore Krishna always thought correctly, and therefore we have to say that he is indeed avatara of Bhagavan only. Divinity, without presupposing divinity, there cannot be any vyavahara. Without presupposing the presence of water, there cannot be any wave. In the same manner, without presupposing consciousness, there cannot be any there cannot be any creation. And this is what is said, Mama Bhuta Maheshwaramiti. Mogashaha. And the people are what? All their cravings are mogasha. Moga means in vain. Vainful inspirations they have. Vainful inspirations. Moga karmanaha. Moga ashaha means moga, vainful desires. They have vainful desires, vainful inspirations. If a wrong person is inspired, then definitely it is vainful only. Moga karmanaha. And they are indeed, they are active. Moga karmanaha. Their actions are also vainful. Moga karmanaha. Moga jnanaha. And their jnana also is more of a distorted jnana. It is jnanam, but then distorted jnana. Moga jnana, and it is a vainful jnana. And therefore, vichetasaha. Vichetasaha means they are mindless people. Chetas means mind. Vichetasaha means they are mindless people. Vichetasa, free from mind. They are mindless people. They are mindless people. Who are they? Rakshasim, Asurim, Chaiva. And such people always take to violence. Rakshasim, Asurim, Chaiva. They always they're indulgent. They're in their behavior. They may be indulgent, and they are also violent people. Asurim Chaiva, Chaiva Prakritim Mohinim Ashritaha, and they are attached also to their religion, etc. And such people are Ashritaha, Mohinim Ashritaha. They resort to attachments. They resort to fanaticism. And therefore here it is said Mogashaha, Mogakarmana. And therefore such people always insult Bhagavan also. They insult the great people. They insult also the great people. And they insult themselves also, that we are only human beings and we are no greater than. I say you are a human being looking from the body point of view. But from consciousness point of view, you are not a human being. You are solely a conscious being. There is a big difference between a conscious being and a human being. The human body makes you a human being. Consciousness makes you a conscious being. And therefore, it is a conscious being that knows everything. The body doesn't know, and therefore, it is meant to be understood that consciousness is something that knows everything. It is a consciousness that what knows everything needs to be understood. Please, what understands everything needs to be understood. That they understand that there should not be any distortion of knowledge. And therefore, moga shaha, moga karmana, moga jnanaha. Distorted jnanam also, vichetasa, they're mindless people. Rakshasim asurim chaiva. And they always take to violence. Violence is not a good thing. It is always said in the Shastram, himsam na kuryat. Don't commit violence, because violence creates a problem between you and another person. And if you are violent, then it creates the interaction becomes very difficult, and therefore violence is not good, and therefore violence is not good, and therefore violence may if there is violence, then violence always creates a rift between one individual and another individual. Kayena, you need be non-violent in your words, in your thoughts, in your words, in your deeds also. And therefore, it is in thought, word, and deed. Don't think ill of others. Don't say anything ill of others, and don't do also anything that is ill of others. When you don't think and say and do anything ill of others, then you are called non-violent. Otherwise, you are violent only. Even if you are not in your deeds, you are peaceful, but in your thoughts, you are violent. You are still a violent person, and therefore, the Mohini Ashrita. Mohini means attachment, please. Shritaha means Ashrita. They resort to attachment, they resort to violence, they resort to indulgence also. Asuri means Asuhu means pranas. Prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. This is what is called Mukhya Pranas. All these Mukhya Pranas are called Asuhu. Asushu Ramate iti Asuraha. Asuraha means we think that he is a Rakshas. Every human being is an Asuraji, because everybody has attachment. And when you are attached to big things, then you are Asuraha. When you say that I'm solely a conscious being, then you are not Asuraha. Because if a person lives in sleep, you don't miss when a person dies, you ask him, is this child, is this, you always thought that this was your child, but then now you are dead. Please tell me, is he your child? He says, no, I don't know. After death, nobody recognizes anybody. You don't miss anybody, you don't feel anybody. And therefore, what you don't miss cannot be attachment, please. If you don't miss anybody, then it is not attachment. In the deep sleep state also, you don't miss anybody, you don't feel anybody. And therefore, Rakshasim Asusu Ramate iti Asuraha. Asurim Jaiva means diabolic state, diabolic violence, diabolic attachment. They resort to Chaiva Prakritim, Mohinim Prakritim, and they are dependent more upon. They resort they resort more to Prakriti. Prakriti means matter, the pleasures, Prakriti, Mohinim Shrutaha, and then they resort to Prakriti, they resort to Mohini, attachment, etc. When your attachment when your attachment is more for matter, then the matter is something in the form of the objects. And when you are identified with the objects, then you always think that I want this is mine, that is mine, and I would like to this much money I have got, and this much of money I will get tomorrow. In this manner, a person always thinks in terms of prakriti, and then in terms of, and then he gets attached to that money also, and therefore that attachment is what is called mohini here. The deluder, the deluder is called a mohini. A person remembers, a person identifies with the attachments, identifies with the objects, and then he thinks that and he becomes indulgent in pleasures, and therefore he is only vainful inspirations. Moha karmanaha. This is all the life of the ignorant people. When the person is ignorant, when a person doesn't know himself, then he behaves like this. He is violent also. He is this also. His body also. He gets attached to the money also. Everything is due to ignorance, and therefore ignorance can only be. You can only accommodate the ignorant. You can't follow the ignorant. You can only accommodate the ignorant. Please don't follow what he says. The ignorant always, you can only accommodate the ignorant. You can't really follow the ignorant, because the ignorant suggestions, yeah, there are going to be ignorant suggestions. Ignorant suggestions you can't follow, and therefore the ignorant persons always can be accommodated. And therefore here prakriti mohinim shritaha. This verse also we have done. 12th verse, 13th verse. Mahatmanastu. In contrast to these rakshasas, there are always good human beings. If Rama is looked upon as a good human being, so what? He is wrong. There is nothing wrong in it. Avatara is always in the form of a good human being. Avatara is in the form of a good human being. A jnani is also, after gaining jnana also, you become a jnani. God is already a jnani, and he takes avatara in the form of a human being only. And then we think that really he cannot be avatara, he cannot be God, etc. How should God should be? He should know. He should know that I am not the body. That's all. If a person, even if you think that he is a good human being, it's all right. He is a good human being. It's all right. He's a good human. Even goodness is not an ordinary thing. Goodness has to be born of divinity, and therefore only the divine person can, only the divinity can be a good human being. Only the divinity can be a good human being, and therefore here it is said Mahatmanastu, and all such great people are called Mahatmas. He is Mahan Atmas. Rama was a Mahatma, Krishna was a Mahatma, Guru Gobind Singh is a Mahatma. They're all Mahatmas. Shivaji is a Mahatma. All great people are Mahatmas. Mahatma anastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. And they always resort to divinity. Daivim means daivim prakritim. They also have the body, but they understand that we have the body, but we are not really only the body. We are solely a conscious being. That is what is called daivim ashritaha. Their thinking is right. Prakritim, they depend upon the objects for survival. Prakritim, they also have the objects, but they use the objects for survival. They don't use the objects for indulgence. And therefore, prakritim ashritaha bhajanti, bhajanti ananya, bhajanti ananyamanasaha. Bhajanti ananyamanasaha. With their mind not attached to anything else. They pray to God without any, with their mind unattached to anything. They are not any distraction. Ananya manasaha means there is nothing other than Parameshwara as the answer. Parameshwara is the answer. Everything else is not the answer. Money is not the answer. Health is not the answer. Everything is non-eternal. Anything that is non-eternal cannot be the answer. Anything that is non-eternal cannot be the answer. Only the eternal can be the answer. The eternal is Parameshwara. And therefore that Parameshwara bhajanti ananya manasaha jnatva, having understood bhutadim abhyayam, and only the source of everything. Bhutadim means the source of everything. the source of all elements. Bhutam means 5 elements. Adi means the source. The origin of all the elements alone is changeless. The source is changeless. Even though the world changes, even when it changes, it doesn't become something other than material, matter. And therefore it becomes manifest now, unmanifest now. That is a big change. But otherwise it changes. Despite all the changes, it remains inert. The inert goes through changes, but then the inert remains the inert. And therefore, actually speaking, there is no change at all. And therefore, like the body goes through so many changes, it remains inert. Ultimately, it is burnt. When it is burnt, it remains inert. And therefore, what is inert undergoes changes, but then the inert remains inert. And that in that case, the inert has no changes also. The inert also has no changes. But because the changes don't make it fundamentally, they don't make it a conscious being. If they make it conscious being, then it is called then it is called a change, a real change. But then the changes do not make the inert the consciousness. The changes don't make the inert the consciousness. The changes only keep the inert only, and therefore the inert remains inert, and therefore the inert has no changes. The inert also is changeless in one way of speaking, and the inert also is changeless because it doesn't become consciousness. But then we want to be free from all changes. Even the unmanifest state, we want to be free from. I just don't want to disappear. I want to be there always. And then here the Krishna says, the Shastra says, you're always there, you have to recognize it. You have to recognize that you are always there. The waking state, you are there. Dream state also, you are there. When thought is there, you are there. When thought is not there, also you are there. Otherwise, you say there was no thought. How do you know you have to experience? And therefore, when the thought is there, you are there. When the thought is not there, also you are there. And therefore, you are always there with the thought or without the thought. With life or without life, you are always there. With the breath or without breath, you are always there. And therefore, as a conscious being, you are always there. And therefore, even though that is what is the time, place? 10. Haji. We will continue. See. Mahatmanastu pam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. Daivim prakritim. The divine prakriti, ashritaha means depend upon. They resort to prakriti, but then they are not indulgent in the prakriti. They use the prakriti, they use the objects, but they don't. They are not indulgent in the objects. They accept the daivim prakritim. Daivim means the divine nature. They take to partha. Hey partha, mam mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha. They resort to my divine nature, and then they resort to my divine nature, and then they don't they resort to my divine nature, and then they do bhajan of me, and they pray to me without any distraction, with their mind stable, with their mind stable. Stability of the mind also doesn't come just like that. The stability of the mind also comes only through prayer. Through prayer, only by God's grace. Because these are the things that happen. You may say that prayer, how can the prayer bring a stability of the mind, Swamiji? Say the prayer also brings God's grace. And if you ask for stability in the mind, you will get the stability of the mind. Because it is said that as you pray, with whatever desire you pray, that desire shall be fulfilled. When Bhagavan says that must be true, ji, it cannot be untrue. Whatever Shastra says, it has to be true. And therefore, it is said in Bhagavad Gita, with whatever desire you pray to me, that desire shall be fulfilled, it is said. If you pray to God with a desire for stability for mind, that stability mind will come to you. And therefore, that is God's grace only. And therefore, that we are alive itself is God's grace. and therefore a person becomes stable. That is also God's grace. And therefore, God's grace means presupposing His presence alone. We are thinking, we are able to think, we are able to work, we are able to go to office, we are able to talk, etc. We are able to eat and digest everything. And therefore it is said, Bhajantyam Ananya Manasaha. And they, with a stable mind, they are able to pray to me. They are able to pray to me with a stable mind. Ananya Manasaha, Jnatva. Having understood that there is only Bhutadim, the origin of these 5 elements is indeed, it doesn't change. The 5 elements may go through change, but the origin, the source of the 5 elements doesn't change. The origin of the 5 elements doesn't change because it is, consciousness remains consciousness. The matter also, it goes through changes, matter remains matter. But the matter can be traced to consciousness. Matter can be traced to consciousness because Shastra also is a Kalpana ji. Shastra also does the Kalpana that Yato Vayamani Bhutani Jayante, Yena Jatani Jivant, Yat Prayanta. He is the source of it. Consciousness is the source of matter, the support of matter. It is Srishti Sthanam, Sthiti Sthanam, Laya Sthanam. Why is it said so by the Shastra? In order to give the Ekatva Jnana. Because if Atma is the Srishti Sthanam, Sthiti Sthanam, Laya Sthanam of Anatma, then Anatma can be traced to Atma only. And therefore, if Anatma can be traced to Atma, then Atma is the non-dual entity. Atma is the non-dual. Atma, like water is water, wave also is water. Water alone is. And a pot is clay, and clay is also clay. In the same manner, consciousness is consciousness, and matter is also consciousness, and consciousness alone is. And therefore, matter is only our perception, and that perception is gone, then there is no matter also. Like in the deep sleep state, there is no perception. Therefore, matter also, you don't feel the matter, you don't miss the matter also. Even others see matter, but that matter is not outside the non-dual. It is not outside what you are in Sushupti. It is within you. Bhajanti Ananya Manasa Jnatva Bhutadim Avyam. Bhutadim Avyam, the origin, having understood that the only thing that doesn't change, that remains as it is indeed consciousness. Yeah, the 5 elements undergo change, but they remain inert. But the inert also has to be traced to the consciousness. Consciousness cannot be traced to matter, but matter can be traced to consciousness. When matter is traceable to consciousness, then matter is also is born of consciousness, it is sustained by consciousness, and it shall go back into consciousness. And therefore, the consciousness, matter is traceable to consciousness. If matter is traceable to consciousness, then consciousness alone is. Consciousness is consciousness, matter is also consciousness. This is what you have to think in your vichara. Matter is consciousness, and consciousness is also consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is non-dual. If anybody asks, how can the consciousness be non-dual? You say, consciousness is consciousness, and matter is also consciousness. And that means consciousness alone is, and that makes it non-dual. And therefore, for that the example is Sushupti. In the deep sleep state, you don't feel anything, you don't miss anything. That means it's not your nature. What you don't feel, what you don't miss is not your nature. And therefore, what you don't feel, the universe you don't feel, the universe you don't miss also. No object you miss, no children you miss, and only you are there. That is unrelated you alone are there. Without any relationship, you are there. And that means what? You are non-dual there. And that non-dualness, non-duality of your nature is indeed called Sushupti. Sushupti is not something that is different from your nature, please. And therefore, Bhajanti Ananya Manasaha Jnatma Bhutadim Avyam. The origin of bhutas, having understood as changeless, Avyam means changeless, Vyeti iti Vyam, and Vyeti iti Na Vyeti iti Avyam. Avyam means undeclinable. Non-declinable is called Avyam. It cannot have any declension, it cannot cannot die. It doesn't become unmanifest and manifest. The source cannot, the Srishti Sthanam, Sthiti Sthanam, Laya Sthanam doesn't become manifest and unmanifest. What is created can resolve. What is created needs to be sustained. Presupposing the presence of the source alone is the Srishti. Presupposing the presence of the support alone is what is supported. Presupposing the presence of the resolving point alone, everything resolves. And therefore, that only says, that only means only the source is there. Because it is a support also, it is a resolving point also. You can that is what is called Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Brahma is called as the source, Vishnu is called the support, and the Shiva is called the resolving point. All the three are one and the same, please. And therefore, all the forms are not separate from the formless. If the formless is something is there, if there is a formless, what is the explanation for the forms, please? The forms are within the formless. The underlying truth of every form is the formless. This is what is not understood by anybody. In fact, Vedic Siddhantam is the best G. You worship the formless through the forms. Otherwise, what is the explanation for the forms? They are not outside the formless. The forms are not outside the formless. And therefore, even though the truth is formless, but it is accommodative of all the forms. Otherwise, no form is parallel to the formless. The form is indeed the underlying truth of every form is the formless. And therefore, even though we think that the form is only if you worship only the forms, then it is called paganism. Otherwise, it is Hinduism, please. Hindus always worship the formless, but through the forms. And therefore, he is Brahma, he is Vishnu, he is Shiva. And therefore, he is the same truth is there, the same conscious being is there in all the forms. The same truth is there in all the, just as the same the reflection of the sun is there in all the waves. The same water is there in all the waves. And the same sea water is there in all the waves. In the same manner, the same truth is there in all the forms. And therefore, the forms are not, we don't worship the forms, we worship the formless, but in and through the forms. And in through the forms. So the form is only a means of perception. When your grandfather, great grandfather is hanging on the ground, hanging on the wall, and his picture is there, and then you give him agarbatti, and then you give arati to him. It doesn't mean that you are giving arati to the photo. You are giving arati in your mind. What is there is your great grandfather, the person, and that person is what is important. Who you are worshipping only the person. You are not worshipping the glass, the photo, the picture, etc. You are worshipping the person, please. In the same manner, here also, we worship Bhagavan, Parameshwara. We don't worship the forms. Form is only a means to worship the formless. Form is only a means to worship the formless. And the more of it we will see in the next class. Thank you very much. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Ji.